All right, welcome back to the pond, everybody.
You're listening.
It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you. We like you to interact with us on SoundCloud at The Real Pond, Twitter at The Pond Pod, IG at The Pond Podcast, and YouTube at The Pond Podcast. Jay, what's going on? How you doing, man?
J Hart, real name, no gimmicks in the building. What's up, man?
I'm doing good. We switched it up today.
How did we switch it up?
We decided to add a very special contributor by the name of Chloe Harrison. Chloe, welcome to the pond.
Hi, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
This is where you insert the round of applause.
We got that. We definitely gonna give Chloe a round of applause.
Round of applause. No.
Chloe joins the Pond Podcast, and hopefully she'll do so in the future to bring her perspective. We didn't have enough diversity on the pod, Jay. It was just us.
It's just two knuckleheads.
Two knucklehead dudes just talking, and we had to switch it up. So, Chloe, tell the pond a little bit about yourself.
All right. Like Rosano said, I'm Chloe Harrison. I'm currently a junior editor at Turner Studios in Atlanta. Yeah.
Clap for that.
So basically, just helping out with Turner Sports mostly, especially during these NBA playoffs. But yeah, I'm originally from Houston. H-Town, hold it down. Shout out to all the Houston followers. Graduated from the University of Miami, affectionately known as the U. Had a really short stint at ESPN before moving to Turner a couple years ago. And yeah, been in Atlanta for a couple years, and it's pretty dope.
Listen, Jay, Chloe immediately brings credibility to this pod, right?
She brings all the credibility. We just some knuckleheads that just think we like sports.
Jay, I want you to let the people know how they can follow you on social media.
At The Flawless One on Twitter, Instagram. You might as well even try to find me on Facebook. It just won't even be worth your time. So,
Chloe, what about you? How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, my Twitter is Closter Talks, CHLOSTER Talks. And I also have a Tumblr and a Facebook page. And yeah, but Twitter is the best way to do it. Twitter is the best way to interact.
Shout out. I thought Tumblr got taken down. Didn't they get destroyed?
Yeah, I thought
not too long ago?
it died.
The not safe for work content.
Oh, okay.
But it's still up and running. I think it just got nominated for what is it? The Webby Awards. Awards?
We trying to get one of those. We trying to get one of those like in 10 years.
I would like one of those. I would not mind adding to a trophy. Cabinet. But yeah, I think it got nominated for best social media community recently.
I don't know. They might fail now with the not safe for work stuff going. I don't know how they work.
I ain't been on Tumblr since 2016, man. So I'm super out the loop.
Shout out. Listen, you know who probably was on Tumblr when they had not safe for work stuff on there?
Who's that?
Tiger Woods.
Definitely.
Tiger Woods.
These are the
Jesus.
transitions and the segues that you can expect from the pond.
Jesus Christ, you gotta hit that wall on that one. It was like swerve.
Well, I want to say congratulations, and I wasn't really paying attention. You guys know how I feel about Tiger Woods. I spoke to you both individually about it, and I'll tell the people who are listening, I'm not the biggest fan of Tiger, but I want to start by saying congratulations to Tiger Woods on his Master win. How do you guys feel about his championship?
You go ahead. Go first, Chloe.
It's funny. Hold on one second. I gotta clear my throat real quick.
Uh-oh.
No, I thought it's funny because I was going to get something to eat before I had to do the podcast, and I was following it on Twitter haphazardly, okay, Tiger's in the lead on a Sunday. I think the last time he was in the lead was pretty recently. But yeah, once I got in right before the podcast, I accidentally changed the channel to CBS and saw that he won the Masters. And I was just like, at first I was really happy for him. I was excited for him. And then, you just think back on his entire career. I was telling Rosano this earlier before we started recording. I would say there are 3 athletes in my lifetime where I can say that I've been a witness to their career for the majority of my life. Tiger Woods, Venus, and Serena Williams. So it's interesting to look back on, 20, 25 years of triumphs, trials, tribulations, but also the controversies that surround Tiger Woods. And it's like, can you celebrate the moment in full without being reminded of the controversies that have swirled around him throughout his career? So that's kind of where I am. I'm really happy for him to see him come back to the game of golf healthy and be able to pull off the performances that we've known him to do in the late 90s, early 2000s. But at the same time, like, will this championship be shrouded because of his past? So, like, that's where I am with this.
Jay, how do you feel about Tiger winning his fifth Masters?
I mean, I'm of a couple minds of this because I think. I'm with you in the sense of the controversy piece and keeping that in mind, Chloe. I also think that when we look in the scope of maybe even more recent times, his controversy was very much a personal matter with his family, right? So like that was infidelity. It's not excusable, but at the same time, when we're looking in the bigger context, like it wasn't like allegations of sexual assault or any of those kind of pieces that we see athletes being played with now, prominent figures being played with now, and where we're in this cancel culture trying to get them out of here, right? Which justifiably so. His was very much like infidelity, just being a bad husband, being a bad father, those kind of pieces. And I think there's a path to forgiveness for everybody, and I think he's struggled for a long time. Really, now we think about it in the bigger picture, he struggled for a while, and I think that we're in a position now where he can be celebrated. I don't know if I'm there, but I can see where people would celebrate. But I think in the sports context, I think golf is just better with Tiger Woods being successful. And golf has been in such a lull since maybe 2010, 2009, 10, in this period where he hasn't been the prominent figure, and the energy, the excitement around golf changes when he is in contention. And this Masters, I haven't heard anybody talk about golf until this week. Probably in the last, you know what I mean? Like it's when he gets going and he is in contention and competition, people pay attention. I think that's just the massive impact that he has on sports and just how polarizing a figure he really is. So, congrats to Tiger. I think a lot of people thought it's been over and been past his time probably for the last 5 years, and here he is right back. And I think now what's interesting is to see now how do we move forward, because now he's won this Masters. Do those expectations jump back through the roof for him? And that's what's going to be interesting.
I think that you guys both hit it spot on. Like, it's like a kind of a love-hate thing with Tiger Woods. Like, you can appreciate what he's doing, but at the same time, the situations he's got himself in, the statements he's made about his racial identity, all of those things kind of like separate, I want to say, the black community from really being on his team like we are a LeBron or like we are a Serena Williams. You cannot negate like his greatness. He literally is I feel like he's the best golfer in U.S. history, right? The other side of that is he's an African-American man that doesn't really want to own that identity fully. And so as a fan, I'm not really a fan of golf, but I'm a fan of sports. So I watch Tiger from afar and I say, oh, that guy in that room that I can't really access or get into is doing well. Like, good for him. But I'm not sure how, I could talk to Tiger Woods, one-on-one about him being an African-American athlete in a sport that's dominated by white culture. So for me, that's where the disconnect is. I'm happy for him. I was disappointed. The last 7 years, right? Like, Tiger Woods was struggling with rebuilding his career, and everything kind of mentally fell down around him. He had some back injuries, some leg injuries, but I feel like golf is so mental that the world got to kind of exposed to who he really was. Like, when I was a kid, Tiger Woods was force-fed to me as like this guy that was in a sport that was dominated by whites, and like, you need to look up to that, because if you stay focused, if you practice, if you dedicate your time to things, you can master your craft. And you can get those from a lot of different athletes. But then when we went behind the curtain and we saw the infidelity, the golden showers, just Tiger Woods adopting the culture that golf doesn't really present itself to be, but it may be behind the scenes. That kind of threw me off. So like the hero Tiger Woods for me with the red shirt and the black pants, that just took a hit. I'm happy for him, but I don't know. I feel like he's a trophy in the golf community, and he doesn't really own. He's not really like. He can't really be himself, and whoever that is, I really don't know. But it's some kind of is a mannequin feel with me when how I look at Tiger Woods. So it was just interesting. But going
back to Jay's point about how golf is not the same without Tiger Woods. I totally agree with that, because for me, I don't watch golf unless Tiger Woods is in contention. I'm like a majority of Americans where, you'll be grocery shopping or, getting your tires changed or something. And if Tiger's in contention, all of a sudden everybody's looking at their phones. Everyone's turning on the television to see if he can pull it off and get back to the Tiger that we knew in the 90s and 2000s. And in fact, like, I remember the video game that Tiger Woods had for PS2. Like my best friend's dad loves golf, and I remember he bought a PS2 for the sole purpose of playing the Tiger Woods video game. Like, he is to golf as Tony Hawk is to skateboarding. Like, I'm not gonna watch the X Games every year, but if Tony Hawk was competing, like, I would tune in. And also, to compare, like, the fact that he's 43 years old and still trying to prove himself, still trying to prove that, he is the greatest golfer of all time. In a sense, it does remind me of Serena, because Serena's still out here in her late 30s, which is considered extremely old for tennis. And, she's still breaking records. She's still competing in all the majors. The French Open is coming up in, I believe, like less than a month. So, the fact that Tiger's still out here trying to, exceed expectations, it is an amazing feat from a sports sense. I guess that puts a bow on it.
Well, to your point, I think it's just been so interesting because he has so much success so early and so young in his career that, at 43 in golf, he's still young. He can play he's 60. Still a young man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's people playing golf in their 60s on the tour. You know what I mean? So he's still a young man and has the ability to still, like, everybody, because he had so much success early, like, he's going to destroy Jack Nicholson's records. And then he had his lull. But does this start the push back towards, okay, maybe he might actually do this?
I will tell you what it does start. It definitely starts these Nike commercials coming down in full force.
It does.
I always, like, being an editor now, but also being a fan, like, I love watching Nike commercials because, I mean, the tales of perseverance. Yeah, it's incredible to see.
Yep. I got to give a shout out to ESPN too, because ESPN did it like for the whole time where he wasn't winning any majors. They kept him in the news, like, no matter what. They were like, oh, is he gonna do it this time? And he finally does it. So shout out.
That's real.
We'll see. Another big thing that's making its re-emergence is the 8th season of Game of Thrones. Who's excited?
Winter is here.
Let's go.
Jay, don't flex like you excited about Game of Thrones. Don't flex like you excited, Jay. Game of Thrones will be airing this Sunday, and it's the start of the end. And if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, it's the culmination of, I want to say, 6 or 7 years, where we've been following the stories of our heroes, Jon Snow and the Stark family. And we want to see. Did I leave out Daenerys? Yeah, I don't want to do that. I didn't leave out Daenerys. Can't do that.
Yeah, don't leave out the Mother of Dragons.
Can't leave the Mother
Don't leave out
Dragons
our Khaleesi.
But so many different characters. Chloe, tell me about your fandom with Game of Thrones. And Jay, I want you to follow up with why you hate Game of Thrones so much.
So with Game of Thrones, my best friend is a huge Game of Thrones fan. And I remember I bought her the books for Christmas. But I didn't get into it until, like, once I started working and was out of school, because I couldn't keep up with school and all my extracurriculars and watch Game of Thrones at the same time. Like, I wasn't that great at multitasking with it. And plus I was like, dang, like, at this point it's like 70 plus episodes, I really want to start, but how much time do I have? And then when the last episode of season 7 aired in 2017, and they were like, well, Game of Thrones won't come back until 2019, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I got all the time in the world to catch up.
I got time.
So, and I caught up fairly recently, but I did it. And I mean, I've never watched a show where you have, well, one, so many villains, and when every villain dies, there's a worse one that follows. But I've never seen, in the Night King's case, a villain where it's like he hasn't said one word all series, and yet he has struck fear in the hearts of every single character in Westeros. Like, I've never seen that. So and it's crazy because I don't know how Game of Thrones is going to end. I think all but the season premiere is going to be an hour and 30 minutes long. So It's like watching a movie every week. I mean, honestly, I just hope that I don't have to work any night games during the playoffs because, I need to be as attentive as possible to see exactly what happens. And this is I just don't want Aya to die.
This is why you got to stay off social media, because if you look at social media, you know, it's gonna spoil it. Now, Jay, I know you can look at social media and it won't really affect you, right?
Hasn't affected me through 7 seasons. So,
well, Jay, that's because you haven't taken the time to watch it, and I strongly urge you to watch it because I feel like this season you're gonna feel left out.
And I will say this: it'll make Game of Zones on Bleacher Report make a lot. It'll make it a lot funnier because it's like, from a basketball standpoint, it's hilarious, but seeing it from a Game of Thrones standpoint too is even more hilarious than it already was.
So this is the thing. So for the same reason why you couldn't multitask is the exact same reason why I hadn't watched it, and then I had other shows that I started watching, and it just fell down the priority order. That's it.
I need to hear this hot take. What show have you put over Game of Thrones?
How long Game of Thrones been out?
Game of Thrones has been out maybe since 2013.
2011.
Okay,
2011.
Cool. So let's kick it off. Let's see. Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, The Blacklist.
I'll give you Breaking Bad as like a
I will give you Breaking Bad. That's about
all of the Better Call Saul, all the superhero shows.
All of them.
Like the Inhumans, Jay?
I didn't see that.
I know.
Nobody did. Wait. Some HBO shows. Silicon Valley.
Jay, you looking at Jay right now. You searching right now.
This is a
Game of Thrones is literally. It's literally like.
No.
Like,
So
I want to say this generation.
Ask me how many shows I've watched this year.
Over Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones?
Yes.
3.
No, the answer is 0 because I don't think I've actually watched a TV show this entire year. So I'm
no
far behind on everything of my own. So all the shows that I did enjoy watching, I haven't watched. I'm like 2 seasons behind on. So Game of Thrones is super down on the priority list.
No. I cannot let our listeners hear this. We're gonna have to move on.
Rosado, what was your point? You were gonna say Game of Thrones is our generation's what?
Yeah, Game of Thrones is literally like our generation's TV version of like any epic you've ever seen. Like, I don't want to say like if Star Wars was on TV when it was good.
Yeah. That's
what Game of Thrones is to us now, right? You never had a show that gets worldwide notoriety, right? And then within the culture, everybody's watching the show. Black Twitter live tweets
hashtag
Game of Thrones.
Is lit.
Right? It's a Game of Thrones hashtag that you know how Sex in the City was Sex in the City, Girlfriends was Girlfriends. Game of Thrones has brought everything together, like the old time road song. All right, it is great, Jay. And I'm disappointed that I need you to watch the first episode.
That's what I was trying to tell my mom. Like, my mom was a huge Sopranos fan. Oh my God. Like, you could not get between her and the Sopranos at all. And I remember when the last episode aired and like how upset she was, because she's like, well, now I'll never know what happened to Tony.
Exactly.
And so with Game of Thrones, she's like, I don't know, like, you know, I don't know how I'm supposed to get into this. And I'm like, Mom, like, think of how the Sopranos was for you. This is 20 years later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know
that is the effect.
At some point, I will watch it. It'll
You
probably be
like
after it's
action
over.
adventure, Jay? Do you like action adventure?
It is a show that I know that I would enjoy watching because I almost bought 3 of the box sets. I also stopped myself from buying 3 of the box sets because I would just deep dive and binge watch it, and I had other things to do. So I was like, I'm not even going to even start until it's over. When it's over, I'll go back and watch it.
I can accept that answer.
I told you that last week. It's recorded.
Listen.
So I was like, you said I hate the show. No, I just hadn't had time. I need to invest time into it.
We get Jay. I'm excited to hear your takes.
I'm just gonna say it's trash now, just to spite you.
Oh God! Listen, you listen. So
you're gonna regret that decision like episode 3, like for real.
So we're gonna keep it moving. Star Wars, another franchise that is ingrained in pop culture, launched a new trailer. I don't know if you guys are really Star Wars fans like that.
I've seen them all. I'm not as big. I know I keep like referencing a lot of people that I know, but my uncle's a huge Star Wars fan, so that's how I got into it.
That's how I got into it too. My uncle was a big Star Wars fan. He sat me down. We watched Empire Strikes Back. Then he gave my mom the box set. My mom became a Star Wars fan, and then that was history. But
wow,
these movies, and me and Jay have spoken about this before. The recent Star Wars movies have been lackluster, right? The only one, I think so. The only one me and Jay agree on, and we agree on the pond, is that Rogue One was really, really good.
I was about to say Rogue One was up there.
Okay. So
I like the concept.
They brought back the closer to direct and I think the title is The Rise of Skywalker,
which I think is a whack title.
It is a whack title. But
I think it's such a sellout.
What is it referring to?
Nobody knows what it means.
No, I think it's like this. Okay, did y'all watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes.
When y'all were
Yes.
Okay, so it reminds me so much of like Uncle Iroh, like how Uncle Iroh didn't really die; he was just stuck in the spirit world, and it took us until like the next series to figure that out.
Spoiler alert for
it's probably
Avatar:
gonna be the same
Last
thing.
Airbender for people who may not have seen this 10 years
Avatar:
later.
The Last Airbender.
10 years after the fact.
So Avatar: The Last Airbender, ladies and gentlemen. This was an era of Nickelodeon. It was like the mid-2000s, and they had an explosion of cartoons, but this was the one anime-like series that Nickelodeon had. And it followed this airbender named Aang, and he was like the last of his people, and basically he was supposed to save the world and bring balance. And there's a particular character in the show who is the mentor to Zuko, who's a villain turned anti-hero turned hero. And he's kind of on the same. It's an Eastern philosophy that's very similar to the Jedi philosophy of Star Wars.
It is.
Yeah, and eventually, I think by the end of the series, he disappears, but we don't know if he's like really dead or not. And then they do like a spin-off series, and we realize that he ended up teleporting himself into the spirit world of the Avatar universe. So I think in this sense, with Star Wars, I don't think Luke Skywalker died because, he was at peace, and I think he fades away.
Yeah, he becomes more powerful than ever.
Yeah, I think he fades away. And at first I was like, okay, maybe he joined up with like the Force itself and became part of the Force. But then I'm like, okay, well maybe he's not dead. Maybe he just like vanished somewhere and he's gonna come back.
Also, spoiler alert for The Last Jedi. If you haven't seen The Last Jedi.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, wait.
Look, it's been 2 years, dog. I wouldn't be spoiler alerts.
Listen,
if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, you haven't missed anything.
We don't need any spoilers for Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you ain't seen it, you just ain't seen it.
Oh, please go see it. Don't see the movie. See the show.
You ain't seen it. You missed out, and you just ain't seen it. The Last Jedi, that's pretty recent. I guess we can give a spoiler alert for that. Outside of that, no, y'all just dumb. Go watch it. Stop listening. Listen. Pause what you're doing. Go watch The Last Airbender. Go watch The Legend of Korra. Come back and listen to this.
Nickelodeon did Korra so dirty.
I heard the Legend of Korra.
That's a different subject for a different.
Wait, I haven't watched.
You ain't seen The Legend of Korra? Wait, calm down. Let's talk about this now. Why you hate? Why do you hate that show? Why do you hate Nickelodeon so much?
First of all, this is why. I never finished Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, okay. So we got.
But this is why.
All right,
Sosa's comment was an event.
This is why.
So listen.
That was a Friday night.
Naruto came into my life, and that took over for me. Okay.
Chloe the Pine podcast now is just me and you because.
Okay. Listen, that's fine. You know why? Because I would become more powerful, like Luke Skywalker. All right.
No, Nickelodeon did Legend of Korra so dirty, but that is a totally different subject for a different day. Because It was just, it's a multi-layered issue. But anyways,
Yeah,
Star Wars.
How do y'all feel about the trailer? That's basically what I'm asking you guys.
The trailer, I mean, I love when trailers don't really give away a whole lot. Kind of like Avengers Endgame didn't give away anything, which is beautiful.
Like 2 scenes.
Because it's like I like to go to a movie and be surprised.
Yeah,
I did like that the trailer didn't really give away a whole lot.
You're
but,
listening to The Pine.
Yeah, like this whole Rise of Skywalker thing. Like, I just don't know why that's the movie title when we got Rey and Kylo Ren, who I do think are like related in some capacity because they got like this crazy connection.
Yeah, they got a
that
little
they
romance
feel when they
connection.
meet
It's
up.
kind of weird.
But that move that she did when the spaceship was coming for her,
It was,
and she like
that little
flips in the air.
backflip,
I
it was
said,
dope.
"Oh wait."
It was dope. I'm gonna go see it. I think they brought J.J. Abrams in to close it and to save this generation Star Wars franchise because they were losing us. The Last Jedi was so bad that I feel like it lost a lot of people. J.J. Abrams did The Force Awakens and it was great and it was safe and it was like
It definitely was
New
safe.
Hope.
It definitely was safe.
It was
It was
safe.
safe. I
And
felt
then-
like with The Force Awakens, I felt like it was kind of repeating the same storyline that we already saw. At least with the Last Jedi, it was like, you don't have to be a Jedi to be one with the Force. It's like you could have the same philosophy and be one with it and understand it and have power that is, equal to having a lightsaber. But
Right,
I don't know. I like the solo movie.
Rogue
The solo
One started
movie
that a
felt
little
flat.
bit.
Yeah, Rogue One. That's why I always say like Rogue One was probably one of the better Star Wars movies in the franchise. And then they made the solo movie, and I was like, we could have done without
And
it.
everyone was confused.
Which had Daenerys in it, which was crazy. But yeah, I could have done without it.
Right. I mean, we'll see. I hope that the Star Wars movie, the trailer was pretty dope. A lot of Easter eggs, specifically Palpatine apparently is returning, and he laughs. Palpatine, the Emperor, the evil Emperor.
No, I said ooh. I didn't know that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh. That's another thing why we brought Chloe on. Chloe is got a deep knowledge of pop culture, nerd, sci-fi stuff too. So I will never check you again, ever. That was my audio equipment messing up. But I'm interested to see what it's gonna be like, and I hope it's good. I hope they round it out and they save it. The EA just dropped a trailer for a new video game, which directly ties into not necessarily being a Jedi, but being one with the Force and being able to become anything you want to be. So we
Like,
shall
I wish
see.
that blind man stayed alive in Rogue One when he was like, "I'm the Force and the Force is with me."
Yeah.
Like he was my favorite.
There was
of all
another
these
dope
new
characters.
Yeah.
Maze Balbus, and I forgot the other guy's name. It skips my. He was It Man, Donnie Yen.
Oh, he was.
He was It Man.
That makes so much sense. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because he brought the heat. He definitely did bring the
He
heat
did.
from
So-
a martial arts standpoint.
So another individual in real life that is ascended and probably has become more powerful in his passing than when he was alive is the late great Nipsey Hussle. Jay, I know you're the music head in this group, and I just want to ask your thoughts on Nipsey's funeral.
So I only saw part of it because it was literally in the middle of me having to be in 5 different meetings that day. So I was going meeting to meeting, but I think I got about 20 minutes of time being able to watch it, and most of it was his mother speaking, and
Right.
that
Well,
part
yeah.
was very impactful and very powerful, and I also felt like a jerk a little bit, not because of how enlightened and how powerful her speech was, and like almost selfish in my own way of like how I'm, I guess, mourning or addressing how I feel about the Nip situation when literally like he's in a better place. He had his victory lap. He's gone home, and you know what I mean. Like I think it was just it was an event. It was amazing. The energy was there. It was just powerful stuff. And I'm just hoping that that people take some of that same energy and the lessons and the insight and address future engagement in how we see each other and how we look at ownership and how we look at how we move as a people going forward. And it's I don't want to dive too much deep into it, but that's where I'm at.
That's pretty solid. Chloe, what was your take on the funeral?
I couldn't bring myself to watch the entire thing just because it was so emotional, and like, for me, it just brought up a lot of memories of like, losing loved ones and, trying to celebrate them. But you're also kind of struggling between like, being happy that they're at peace, but also struggling with, being quite upset that they're not here anymore and like how unfair it was the way he went out. But I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very authentic. I loved listening to his relatives speak in the snippets that I did see. And I just love that the community came together for him. A lot, and it's funny because like, I know I'm not the only one that didn't listen to Nipsey Hussle while he was alive. I knew of him because I was like, oh, his name is a play on of Nipsey Hussle, who was a comedian that played the Tin Man in The Wiz. And The Wiz is one of my favorite movies.
It's a great movie.
I love it, yeah. But yeah, I knew who he was, but I never took the time out to listen to his music, even when he was nominated for a Grammy last year. So, being able to learn about him posthumously, about all the charitable works that he did in South Central, about how he had a STEM program going, or how he was about to open a barbershop who was named after his friend who had just died of gun violence like last year. He was doing so much, and it's very frustrating to see someone so young being taken so soon, but it's also very encouraging to see how many people came together and how many people will stay together in the coming weeks, months, years to help South Central become the community that Nipsey wanted to see. Like, I'm very excited to see his impact on people worldwide, but especially in his community, and what positivity or what positive things will come out of his passing going forward.
What's great about Nipsey Hussle is almost like the rags to riches story. What's unique about him is, in my opinion, and people have done this before, they've come from a really bad place and they've been able to succeed and be great. But this person, right, just through doing what he was passionate about, which was making music, and that transitioning into him giving back to his community, like both of you guys said, got to a point where he was so his notoriety grew so great that the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, wrote a letter, right? Like, that's huge, right? Oftentimes in our society, we separate rap culture and politics. Just recently, politicians have tried to incorporate the two. But when you are able to bring together a group of people from just your work, the motivational music that you put out there, and your story in such a really short amount of time, like really, honestly, like I would say Nipsey Hussle's creative work has only been for like 10 years, right? Because I think I started listening to him around 2008.
Yep.
So to have such an impact in 10 years, to where everybody from the president is speaking for you, you're bringing rival gangs together. Well, I don't want to say rival gangs, but historically gangs that are separate from each other together, and they're walking for you. That's really impactful. And I was happy to see that the funeral procession put on, and that it was almost like a celebration of culture. And that happened at the Staples Center. Of course, it was gonna be a hood wedding, right? Because at a hood funeral, because of the people. But what was beautiful about it was people coming together to give their support, and everybody that he collaborated with. Like, this dude collaborated with Marsha Ambrosius, Kendrick Lamar, just really moguls in the rap game. Just all speaking out for him. Jay-Z speaking out, starting funds for his family. So it was just a beautiful thing to show togetherness and unity. And I definitely think, like you guys said, the marathon will continue in regards to his life, and that I think he's become more powerful in his death. And in 10 years, he set a blueprint for a lot of people to follow. And you don't necessarily have to be hood. I feel like Nipsey Hussle was so great. And I was speaking to people about this, like, that if you took the chains off him, took the growing up in Crenshaw away, and put him in a corporate environment, he still would be a success, because that's how smart he was, right? We don't often get to see celebrities' parents and stuff like that. But it sounds like he came from a pretty solid background. The crazier thing is that his environment affected him, but he was so impactful and so positive that he kind of rose above it. The tragedy is that because he was giving back to it and trying to give back to it and still in that environment, it took him away soon. So it's really like an interesting story. And I just think that, like Jay said, is going to be really positive moving forward, both of you guys. So.
Yeah, and it's crazy how he had not one radio hit.
No. Like
not
you
one.
You didn't hear him on the radio till recently, right?
Right.
Like, he was literally self-made, and a lot of people say self-made, but like if you look at Jay-Z's blueprint for becoming successful, right? It's almost like he skipped a step in regards to signing with a major label, right? Owning his masters when he did, right? Selling mixtapes.
Yeah, owning masters. Oh my God.
Right, selling mixtapes when he did. So it's important to he just had a game plan, and I think that he took a lot of information from greats and then applied it to his personal life, and that was what was dope about Nipsey Hussle. And the funeral was cool. It was a cool funeral.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Guava Island by Donald Glover / Childish Gambino came out. It was on Amazon Prime. I don't know if it's still up. I don't know if that 18-hour window has passed, but Donald Glover's character reminded me of Nipsey Hussle.
Okay.
In a sense, I don't want to give the movie away, but in a sense, I was like, because they filmed this last year in Cuba, so I was like, how coincidental it is to have a character so similar to Nipsey.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna check it out.
It is currently still able to be viewed.
Right. So I need to watch that, Jay. We got homework. You know what I'm saying? I gotta watch a few things.
Well, I think that just kind of putting a bow, I guess, on the Nipsey conversation, that it's just, after somebody passed away and then you go back and revisit their art, it's weird parallels, man.
It is weird. It is very
it's
weird.
just weird
it really
parallels that are happening. Like similar, I guess, when you look at like a Tupac, and I don't want to compare the two, but like how they talked and articulated things. I don't see a problem with that. How they talked about and articulated things, and then how these things end. You know what I mean? Like even his last tweet, which was in reference to something else completely different, but that being the last message that he put out to the world. You know what I mean? Like it's just
right.
It's just weird how these things play out.
Everything happens for a reason, though. Everything happens for a reason. So, shout out to Nipsey. The blueprint's there. The music, the art is there for anybody to follow. So check it out. Listen to the discography. And it's there for you. We're gonna move back to sports really quickly, and the NBA playoffs are currently happening right now.
Yeah, Indiana.
Yeah, I know.
Indiana, it's kind of over with.
There's 30 seconds left on the clock in this game, and Boston's up. But I think Boston has locked up the first game in the series. But speaking about some other crazy moves, Luke Walton did not get fired from the Los Angeles Lakers. The reports say that he mutually parted ways following Magic Johnson stepping down from president of basketball operations. Jay, how do you feel about Los Angeles, specifically because they're in the West? Your team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, is built completely differently, but doesn't seem to have as much dysfunction. How do you feel about the Lakers' issues?
I think they need some discipline at the end of the day. And you're seeing a lot of parallels about what happened with Cleveland, really, of LeBron James kind of having being the center point, focal point, and having so much control in kind of what happens or what moves, or perceivably having so much control in what happens or what moves, right? Nobody really knows what's happening behind the scenes or those conversations that are really happening, but on the outside looking in, everybody pretty much has an assumption that, all these are related to LeBron James, basically telling them what they need to do, right? So it's going to be interesting to see, because I think as LeBron is being there, and I don't know if that now affects how free agents look at LA, if that interest looks the same. I think that what's going to be really telling is what draft pick do they end up getting? Because they have right now, a 2% chance of getting the number 1 pick and they're in the lottery. What does that look like if they get a top 5 pick, right?
I would stop watching basketball.
But then, but
what's
to
your
your
take?
point, like, what would it look like if they got, like, somebody in the bottom of the first round? Like, that's how they got Kyle Kuzma. And, I mean, Kyle Kuzma is, I think that's someone that they should keep.
Correct. So,
Definitely.
I think that's, so in addition to the Luke Walton thing, we know Magic Johnson stepped down, right? And when he took that job, the plan that he had in place completely thrown out the window the second they went and got LeBron James. And that's where I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because they had this youth movement building. We're going to get Lonzo. We got Brandon Ingram. We go get Kuzma. We were building this youth. We're going to build this around this nucleus. LeBron comes. All bets are off. And, mid-season, they're talking about trading everybody, trying to get another superstar. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, they need to hone in on a plan and stick with what that plan is, but they need to have the right people in place. And I think coaching-wise, Luke was not the person for what they were going to go do. The biggest mistake they can make is to go and get a LeBron James guy, because then that's going to tell everybody exactly what's happening there. That it's the LeBron James show. So if Ty Lue is the one that gets hired, Ty Lue's not a bad coach, but what message does that send to everybody in the league? What does that send to your fan base?
I can't see Ty Lue being the Los Angeles Lakers.
He's the number
head coach.
one.
Apparently,
he's the number one option right now.
I know, and this is why I can't see it. When LeBron James came to Cleveland, LeBron James was Cleveland's great hope. Cleveland has no legacy when it comes to basketball, at least from the 2000s to now. And LeBron James' emergence sparked a huge influx of hope for that franchise, and he also delivered a title. The Los Angeles Lakers have a standardized, infallible organizational legacy, right? And what we're seeing the Lakers doing right now is like uncharacteristic of them since Kobe left. Even when Kobe was there, people still were like, oh, Kobe can bring this team back to greatness. This is not the LeBron show in Los Angeles, because the Los Angeles Lakers have a brand already. I feel like LeBron James is a part of the Lakers trying to establish their franchise for this next coming decade. They tried to get Anthony Davis. That fell apart. The New Orleans Pelicans organization and ownership literally changed the course of history by not letting Anthony Davis go to Los Angeles Lakers, right? That changed NBA history, in my opinion, because if he's there, I definitely think that team might be playing the Golden State Warriors in the finals. It just changes the whole landscape of basketball. It also changes LeBron's legacy. How many rings does LeBron have? How many years does LeBron have? Now everybody's rushing. We got to get this done. And so when you let Magic Johnson step down as president of basketball operations, Luke Walton leaves, which I don't think was a bad thing. Now you're doing another year of rebuilding, and you have to hope that you can get one of these 10 free agents to come to the Los Angeles Lakers this year. And so now it's not a set plan. Like if Magic said, boom, we get Magic Johnson, right? Boom, we got Lonzo Ball. Boom, we get Anthony Davis. Boom, we stumbled upon Kyle Kuzma. That sounds like a plan. And now it's in shambles. So I think that the Lakers are going to be in a really tough spot, and it's not going to be good unless they grab Anthony Davis or another prime free agent. Like that is A1 what they need to do. The Tyronn Lue thing would only bring more heat on LeBron, right? Because if they lose, right, it's like LeBron's taking over the Lakers and they're not winning, and he's gotten everything he wants to, and that hurts his legacy. So I don't think Ty Lue would be the right move.
I think and that was the thing to me. I was like, I would never trade a team for one player, but I was like, is Anthony Davis necessarily that valuable, and will he fit in a franchise like Los Angeles? I just felt like it was just like way too big of a gamble that they got themselves into. Now, who could, be a possible move to LA? Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker has been the face of Charlotte for many years, but at the same time, like, I think they've been, first round at best?
Right.
So, why not join up with a LeBron James and try to go after a championship?
If
I
Jordan
think,
doesn't keep Kemba, I think Jordan's crazy, right? Like,
yeah.
if you don't pay him the max after All-Star appearance, after his, great performance this year, like that will hurt your franchise, right? Because you have
Right.
to rebuild.
It's so funny because people love talking about Jordan the player, but never Jordan the executive.
Right.
But anyways,
That's assuming Kemba wants to stay.
Exactly. That's a whole other
that
thing.
too, yeah. But my thing with the Lakers, I feel like they needed to clean house. I just felt like Luke Walton was going to be in limbo for a while, and it's kind of like they are, according to Woj, they had told much of the staff that they were going to get fired by 10 a.m. the day after their last game of the season, and then that didn't happen because Magic Johnson stepped down.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it was like, well, I mean, I would want to leave anyway because it's like I've been prepping to leave, and now it's like, oh, stop right there before you're at the door. Like, we need you over here. Yep. We need you over here, bud. But it's like, for me, I think Luke Walton's going to have a bright future with the Sacramento Kings. I think the Kings were a couple buzzer beaters away from the playoffs this season. They have a young De'Aaron Fox who is super fast, Sonic the Hedgehog fast. Yep. And they got Buddy Hield. They have a solid team. So and I think, they could be like a 7 seed next year if they want to, or maybe even higher.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, at first I was like, what is Vlade Divac doing firing their coach? Like, Jaeger wasn't that bad, but, might as well get Luke Walton to work with a young team. So at least you get to stay in California.
Yep.
But I think for the Lakers to rebuild, they need to find somebody outside of LA. Like, they need to find somebody who's not affiliated with the Lakers at all, somebody who is completely unbiased and can dissect this franchise bit by bit and say, hey, like, here's where we need to improve. We need to fix this, this, and this. I feel like it's a lot of legacy hires. I feel like even though Jerry West is the best executive in NBA history and now he's with the Clippers, I would feel like even that would be a legacy hire because he played for LA. I don't think making Kobe GM or
please don't do that.
I don't think Kobe wants that either. I think Jerry West is the right person for the GM position, but so the Lakers need an identity, and the Lakers haven't had an identity in 8 years. So let's look back, right? And this was
that's even with Kobe after the Achilles. I think a lot of people forget that era of Kobe that was yelling at Jeremy Lin at the end of the game. Like, people forget that.
Listen, this is the last 5 coaches: Mike Brown, 2011, 2012; Bernie Bickerstaff, Mike D'Antoni, Byron Scott, Luke Walton, all losing. And they haven't and the closest thing they had to creating identity was in the past couple of years with Luke Walton. And the problem that they did was I think the Lakers, knowing they are emboldened to their identity of the impact of being the Lakers, right? Like the Yankees are emboldened to being the Yankees. So the Yankees always have to go get the top free agents. They got to pull all the money out and buy these players, right? And they ran into so much trouble in the more recent time for the Yankees because they didn't have their own farm system, right? They had this whole identity of we're just going to go pay the biggest money and get the biggest free agents, right? The Lakers for the past 8 years, every time a big free agent come out, everybody assumes, the Lakers are going to be a Laker. All the memes that came out with the pictures of like them having Melo and you know what I mean? Like they always were going to get the big free agents and it never panned out. And then this past all season, they finally went and got that big free agent that they've been trying to clamor and go get, and we got LeBron and completely changed their identity. They were building something. Their identity that Magic tried to create was we're gonna create within. We're gonna draft well and build within our own. They were on the verge of doing this and then threw it all away.
Yeah, and that's what
completely derailed it to get LeBron, which he's the best player in the world, arguably, great, but you were building something, right?
I think it looks good if you get Anthony Davis, right? I think it works if you get Anthony Davis and you keep Kyle Kuzma. So then you have your wing player, you have LeBron at the point, you have a big man,
and they can't do that right now because Anthony Davis is not an option outside of trading.
Yeah, it's like his future is not up to him; it's up to New
Correct,
Orleans,
right?
And they're bitter, and they're being super petty.
I would be petty too.
They're being super petty. So that's what I'm saying. Like you mortgaged all of that and got nothing out of it. You got 2 more wins this season. with LeBron.
So
my thing is, honestly, with Anthony Davis, like, he really needs to watch, like, Messing with New Orleans, because those people will do some voodoo for real.
Facts.
Like, my whole family's from Louisiana. Like, you do not want to be on people's bad side for real.
Facts. So yeah,
Listen,
Not at all.
they need to just reestablish an identity. I think the tricky part with Ty Lue is he's a good coach and he's a former Laker, but
it's a legacy
it's
hire
the
again.
LeBron thing.
Exactly.
It's the LeBron piece because he coached LeBron already. So like it's just going to be scrutinized, and there's just no ifs ands about it.
My thing with LeBron is, so, like, you know, when I was in Miami, I had, like, my first ever internship was, like, working with the Heat. So that was amazing. And, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm still a fan of the Heat. But my thing with LeBron is, I feel like since he's left Miami, he's tried to recreate Miami everywhere he goes. And it doesn't work. You know, it's like the reason why I wanted him in Miami in the first place is because, like, his best friend Dwayne Wade was there, you know, and this is like a prime Dwayne Wade, and then you get a prime Chris Bosh, and then, you know, eventually they got Ray Allen to come over. They already had Shane Battier, they already had Mike Miller. They had a pretty solid arsenal, and I think with LeBron, it's like, you know, he always says he learned how to win championships over there, so he was going to bring that same concept to Cleveland. And it was like, okay, you go to a team that, even though they haven't been to the playoffs since you left, it was Kyrie's team, you know? Just like Miami was Dwayne Wade's team. And it's like Dwayne Wade saw the bigger picture, and people bought into the same idea. I felt like with Cleveland, LeBron tried bringing that Miami philosophy there, and people didn't buy into the same idea. And it caused a lot of dysfunction, and it created a chaotic locker room. Because my thing is this, if we're hearing about your locker room situations from the media, there's a problem. And we heard about it every All-Star weekend for years. So my thing is, like, you know, we already knew Cleveland was dysfunctional. Now LeBron leaves a dysfunctional Cleveland that was lucky to even win a championship. You know, it went to 7 games, and it was a comeback. And Kyrie made that shot. You leave that, you go to LA, and it's like, you know, that the last thing that you have is, like, coming from that dysfunctional culture. And I think it's the same thing. It's like, you know, you're trying to recreate Miami and Los Angeles from a city standpoint. That could work because, you know, LA's a popular tourist destination. Miami's a popular tourist destination. Cleveland is not.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. But from a culture standpoint, it's different. Like, yes, you learn from Pat Riley, who did coach the Lakers, who did win Coach of the Year with the Lakers, and now he's with the Heat. But, you know, to y'all's point, it's still the Lakers. You know, like this, like the Lakers are like the second winningest franchise in NBA history. You know, it's like
they are an institution.
You know, it's like you're trying to bring all your experience to an established organization. You know, the Heat are only like 30 years old. The Cavaliers just started winning recently.
Right.
You know, it's like you're trying to change all these things when it's the Lakers, you know? So that creates a lot of dysfunction.
It does.
And I think that's why it needs to be somebody from the outside that comes in to help. It kind of reminds me of my own alma mater with our football team.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
The U of A.
The U of A
Like,
is starting.
Okay, where's the Mark Rick? Let's get the Mark Rick hate out. Let's get the Mark Rick hate.
Right. And that's what I was getting to. Like, you know, you go from being the U of the 80s, winning 4 of your championships in one decade, and then, you know, winning one in 2001 with arguably the greatest team in college football history. There's legacy in that. You know, Miami built their legacy fairly recently, but they demand success when it comes to football. So they got Randy Shannon, who was internal. He played at Miami. He became the head coach. That fell through. Plus, there was a Ponzi scheme. So they're like, okay, we'll bring in someone from the outside. The problem is they brought somebody from a culture that didn't know what it was like to win, and it was a group of 5 school with Al Golden. Got rid of him. Then they're like, okay, let's bring in Mark Richt. Like, he won a couple SEC titles. He's of Miami, so this should work.
He's a legacy
and it got
guy
Miami
with
on the
Georgia.
right track. But it's like you still can't win the Orange Bowl. You couldn't win the bowl after that. You didn't want to fire some of your coaches to make changes, so they got rid of him, and then they kept Manny Diaz. So my thing is, with the Lakers, I don't think they'll find anybody that was a former Laker or associated with the Lakers that can, like, come in with a fresh set of eyes and build up a championship organization. If they have somebody, by all means, make him the president. But if they don't, I believe that they should find someone from the outside, bring him in for a couple of years, and then maybe LeBron will be, you know, not necessarily similar to Kareem, because Kareem won 5 titles with LA, but kind of like with Kareem and Magic Johnson that first year, where it's like, okay, they finally got over the hump of the 70s and won a championship, and that sets up LA for the next decade.
Yeah. They got to do it now, too, because the Golden State Warriors are getting ready to stop their run.
They need discipline, and that's what I'm saying. I think they need a coach that, one, is not going to be going to let LeBron James basically walk over him, right? Perception wise, and there you can name a bunch of different people. First person comes to my brain always is Martin Jackson, but
I love him. I love it, but he's getting too fat and he's getting that ESPN money, bro.
So,
but my I think to kind of go back just a little bit on your point about the Cleveland days. We gotta also be fully transparent about the fact that, you know, that was Kyrie's team and they weren't successful. LeBron came in there and, you know, the quote unquote taught them how to win, and there is dysfunction, but that dysfunction came from Kyrie wanting to be the man. And then Kyrie now taking over a team, left to go take over a team, has come out and admitted that, you know what? He was right.
It's not that easy.
He was right. He was right. I messed that up. That's me. I own that. It's a little harder than I thought. I get where he was coming from. You know what I mean? Like, so, but he also, to the second point, is he tried to do that in Cleveland the first run. It's just nobody would come to Cleveland. Like, they couldn't. They tried to get Carlos Boozer to come, couldn't get him. So he's been trying to do that from early on. It happened to work in Miami to make it work out that way. And yeah, to your point, continue to try to take that same energy and recreate it everywhere he's going. But he's getting older. Everybody, the players he's playing with are younger in a different mindset. So like their mentality, their resilience just looks a lot different than even Kyrie's does. You know what I mean? So they're going to be challenged way differently than the Kyrie Cleveland team that he took over with them. It just looks way different, and he has to be cognizant of that and cognizant of what the impact is.
What are some of the biggest disappointments and surprises for this NBA season for you guys?
I think the Lakers not being a playoff team is a disappointment.
I think I would even say in this aspect, at the state of the Lakers right now, I think it's personal for LeBron. So I think LeBron's legacy, slightly being like, if you could tarnish a legacy, you really can't tarnish a legacy.
That's a black mark.
But it's not a good look for like his career. Like this will be forgotten about, I'm sure, because the Lakers will get into grind mode this next offseason. But this was a disappointing part of this season. For me, some surprises: the Brooklyn Nets and their success.
Yeah.
So if we juxtapose the Los Angeles Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets, right? And with all the resources, with all the notoriety that the Lakers have, versus the Brooklyn Nets, who really just threw a stadium up on Atlantic Ave, have a Russian owner, don't have as many draft picks, and are now in the playoffs contending with one of the top franchises in the NBA. That's a big surprise for me.
I like the Nets though.
I do.
I like their squad.
Especially
really
like, and even before D'Angelo Russell, like what Spencer Dinwiddie was able to do coming out of the G League, you know, and helping Brooklyn get to where they were. And then I think it was only because he had a thumb injury that all of a sudden D'Angelo was starting, and you know, then he became an all-star. So you know, to see what they were able to do against Philly, even playing in Philadelphia with their fans, like their fans are a totally different kind of crazy. So, you know, to be able to do what they did, that I think that sets the tone and makes them a dark horse for this playoff run.
It'll be interesting.
It's going to be interesting.
It's been interesting to see their transition. I think once the ownership and stuff, they took a step back and stopped being so visible, and changed the environment of that team. That team started changing and started really building, and they've been developing really well. That trade to get Russell was smart. Drafting Jared Allen was smart. They're on the verge.
And who knows what's going to happen this offseason. They could get somebody that's really solid and put them and just make them a standard. And that's all it took, just building through the drafts, like getting rid of unnecessary assets and like like the Nets farm system is amazing. Like they have a really good farm system, and they're operating on the cheap right now, and it shows. They're taking the Lakers' damaged goods, right, and D'Angelo Russell, who did that to himself, but look what they transitioned it into.
Yep.
Right, so it's great.
Sometimes you need a new environment. Same thing with Julius Randle. Need a new environment.
Right. You need a fresh start. The Nets beat up on the Philadelphia 76ers last game, and a lot of media outlets are pointing to distractions on the bench. So Joel Embiid and Amir Johnson were caught looking at a cell phone, which is against team policy, during Game 1 of the Philly Nets series. Joel Embiid went on to say that he was looking at the text and Amir Johnson's daughter was sick, but they were smiling. Do y'all feel like this is a cover-up for like a non-mature 76ers team right now?
I don't know what it is, but my thing is, to say that these players are so locked in for the NBA playoffs, I just feel like you don't do stuff like that. Like, if your daughter's really sick, Amir ended up walking to the locker room. Like, I would rather him do that and go check his phone than to actively sit courtside, knowing that there are cameras on you, especially considering it's the playoffs. Knowing that, social media would easily, crack this thing wide open. Like, I just, what is the thought process? Because, we can come up with excuses all day for all these athletes, but my thing is, they know who they are. They know how big their brands are. They know what this will look like. They're very well aware of the actions that they make. And I just felt like that was just like a boneheaded decision all the way around.
I agree.
Amir Johnson will not get no minutes either. So I think
it's just dumb. You can get up and leave and go to the locker room at any point.
Right.
Yeah, people go to the bathroom all the time.
Yep. Easily avoidable.
Do you think that this is going to affect the Philadelphia 76ers playoff chances? Like, I don't think it's going to fracture the locker room or anything like that, but they got to get together.
I think I don't think this affects anything. You know what affects them? Ben Simmons not being able to shoot a jump shot. That affects them.
So I need a prediction from both of you guys right now. After seeing both of these two teams play, who's coming out of this series on top?
Oh, Brooklyn.
I'm sticking with the Sixers just because I don't think, as good as Jared Allen is, Embiid still abused.
He did. I'm gonna go 7 games, but the 76ers is gonna pull it out just because they're better from top to bottom.
Tobias Harris will show up.
I don't think they mesh well.
Tobias Harris will show up.
See,
he didn't show up. He wasn't there. He didn't play. He wasn't there. He may have had minutes. Showed up on the stat sheet. He wasn't there. He'll show up.
JJ Redick wasn't there either, and he fouled out.
They'll show up. But Ben Simmons got to make a jump shot. He got to be able to just shoot more than 5 foot from the rim.
That won't happen until like year 10 for him, man. I just don't think so.
He shot like 1-3 at LSU. Like, yeah. I still get mad about that.
Dwayne Wade couldn't shoot threes either until year 8.
Right,
in
and
the
that's
NBA.
what's gonna happen.
But he can shoot. But he can shoot a mid-range jump shot. You got to at least be able to take a step in and make a jump shot consistently.
Yeah. I think he just needs to go through like a Blake Griffin like development phase where he goes from just being able to dunk or stay close to the rim to like actively developing a game.
Yeah, like you got JJ Redick on your team. Somebody can teach you to shoot a jump shot.
But yeah, I think Brooklyn comes out of this because the way they stung Philly, I think it's gonna put them on notice. But I think the longer this series drags on, the more I worry about Joel Embiid's health, especially with his knee. And I don't know if he'll necessarily last. So that's why I'm picking Brooklyn. I think they're just a healthier team. They don't have a whole lot to lose because they're young, they're new, they're fresh with this. And I just think they'll come out better with this.
So we got our picks in. We'll see. It's gonna be 40 days of basketball, and we will see at the end of it. This reminds me of like a time when playoff basketball was really unpredictable, and this is like the best playoffs I've seen in a long time. There's been a lot of upsets.
I don't know because
Toronto's still doing Toronto things.
Well, you say I know what you're gonna say, Jay.
Well, I think me personally, I think it's gonna the game 1 things. Yes, there definitely some upsets, but I don't see a lot of upsets in this first round. To me personally, I think it's gonna be pretty chalk, with the exception of potentially maybe.
What about Orlando, Toronto?
I still got Toronto.
Okay.
I still got Toronto there, but
Chloe, what do you have in that one?
I think it's gonna be Toronto and 7.
Yeah, like I think Toronto's still pulls that
like,
out.
I don't know. I just like Kyle Lowry has to do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, do something.
I have zero expectations. I have zero expectations of Kyle Lowry.
Yesterday, like something.
I got zero expectations of Kyle Lowry, but
but my thing is, it's like DeMar DeRozan's not here anymore. Like, you got to prove why you weren't traded to San Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be able to step up. Kawhi can't carry the team. Like it's a team game. It's a team effort. And I mean, the fact that Orlando, I didn't expect Orlando to win game 1, especially with the atmosphere that Toronto has. Right. But, I just feel like with each year, Toronto's always a bridesmaid and never a bride. It's just like, they're consistently the 2 seed, but then, they just let games get away from them.
This has been a routine argument between me and Rosano because he rides for that Toronto bandwagon for forever. And I keep telling him,
like the culture.
And I keep telling them they fail in the playoffs. But I think Kawhi makes it a little bit different. But I guess tying into maybe the biggest surprise of the NBA season, Siakam, Pascal. They don't need Kyle Lowry. Just needs to show up. But I never expected anything from Kyle Lowry. But Siakam, that's a difference maker. And I just don't think DJ Augustine is going to play like Kyrie Irving every game. So
I think Siakam is going to win most improved.
He better. That shouldn't even be a debate. Yeah. Like that he has been a revelation for that team.
This takes me to a segment we have on the show called 3 Words. All you guys have to do is give me 3 words to describe a person, place, or thing that I say to you. Jay, we're going to start with you first. Kodak Black. 3 words.
Please cancel him.
Chloe, Kodak Black. 3 words.
In response to that, I hope so.
Next person, Derek White.
Who's starting?
Jay, go ahead.
Okay. Very underrated. I compounded that one. Underrated.
It's gonna be mean though. He had a huge forehead.
A huge forehead.
I mean, it might fill the poster he made last night, but that's all right. That dunk was amazing.
His forehead definitely helped him out on that dunk. So shout out to him. Next one, Ja Morant. Chloe, go ahead.
Ooh. Rookie of year.
That's a big.
That's a big jumping on the ledge. Know your ledge.
Okay, Jay. In response.
Team difference maker.
Interesting. Last one. Kevin Durant. Chloe, go ahead.
Oh man. Ooh. Too many texts. I mean, I don't know. It's like 7 and you're suspended a game. Like, you got to watch it with Pat Bev for real.
Jay, Kevin Durant.
Still needs brushing.
Damn.
Yeah. No.
I never seen somebody that has nappy waves.
Millions of dollars and not knowing how to brush.
How you have nappy waves, man? You can't have a Caesar and be nappy. That's my guy, though.
It's like he has a bald patch, and I know we don't really talk about it much. And it's like, okay, that's all right. Like, you are getting older. I'm sure there's a lot of stress that comes with leaving Oklahoma City for Golden State. But at least brush. You know what I'm saying? Like, someone has to teach you. You got teammates.
He be wearing do-rags and his hair nappy. That's my guy.
We're gonna keep wait.
Like you play with the Splash Brothers. Like, there are waves somewhere. There are waves you can find.
Last word for both of you. Last topic. Patrick Beverley. Chloe, go ahead.
What? Like 3 words?
3 words.
Ooh, always an irritant.
Jay.
Oh, this is gonna be a meta one. Ric Flair drip. That's meta because you got to think about Ric Flair, the dirtiest player of the game. Yeah, I went there. Oh,
you
deep,
did. You
layered.
Did. So we'll continue and say this. Kevin Durant and Patrick Beverley got into it. The Los Angeles Clippers matchup with the Golden State Warriors. I'm only watching. I love it. I'm only watching because I want to see Patrick Beverley get on everybody on the Warriors' last nerve.
That is why I love it.
And so I'm glad glad that I think that the referee that ejected both of them, he has a history of being sensitive. His name escapes me right now, but I've seen games where he's called and he just is. It's literally like, he wants preschoolers to play basketball, and that's not the game of basketball. Like, I love KD and Patrick Beverly trash talking because it's good for ratings. Like, we're gonna talk about this. Let them go, right? We know this series is gonna be a sweep. Let them at it. Let them go at it.
Let that hurt go.
Let it go.
I think the best video I saw this week was Patrick Beverly trying to teach, Jay Crowder how to guard James Harden.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's crazy because, like, he used to play with the Rockets. Like, I remember his absence is part of the reason why Golden State was able to win that 2015 West Finals matchup.
True.
So, yeah, he has all the experience in the world.
Let them play. Let them play, NBA. Golly, let them play. So, that was our 3-word segment. Both of you guys did a good job. That was funny. It's going to be some funny Instagram edits to that one. We want to switch to pop culture. Anderson Paak just dropped a new album called Ventura, and he is underrated in my opinion. I don't think he's mainstream, right? Like he's in the vein of Nipsey Hussle. Like if you listen to him, you listen to him. You know him, you know him, but he's not a household name. What's you guys take on Anderson Paak's contribution to music? Jay, I'll start with you.
First, this is gonna sound maybe. I don't know. His last album, Oxnard, it went for me. No, it just went for me. But
I still haven't listened to it.
Well, so this is the interesting part. So he recorded both these albums at the same time, and pretty much just released them 6 months apart. But Oxnard was very much Dr. Dre influenced, and this Ventura has been more about him and more of his wheelhouse, I guess. And I think you can hear the difference, and it kind of makes me. I don't know if he even wanted to put Oxnard out. That's what it makes me think. Like that
was a label thing.
That I think some of these songs, that album might have looked different if he had seemingly more control on how the release of it was. Because I don't know if those albums would have been put together like they have been. But this album is significantly better than Oxnard. He is extremely talented. He will be a influence and a drive in urban music and just music, period, moving forward. He's too talented.
I like Anderson Paak from the standpoint that he is old school, if you want to say, but he infuses like new school vibes to a lot of his music, and that's what I like about it. He's unapologetically himself, right? He's not like a beautiful dude, right? Like most R&B dudes are like, pretty or good looking, or like what's great about him is he has a lot of gusto. He's extremely talented, and he's unapologetic with his music, and it shows. And Malibu was a dope album. I like that one that he did.
That was great.
And Ventura is dope too because it's got a lot of like good vibes, and he has some collaborations with
the very
some
first
legends.
song.
Like
The very first song is Andre 3000 on there,
right?
And rapping in like an alien, like
right.
Just different in a rhyme scheme that shouldn't be able to rap like that. Yeah, and then you got Smokey Robinson. That's all you gotta know, man.
Right. So, Chloe, you got homework. You got to check that album out. It's solid.
No, I need to, but I do love Anderson Paak. I did like the Malibu album a lot. But my favorite project was when he collabed with Knowledge to make the No Worries album.
Okay.
Like that was like the soundtrack of my life back when I used to work at ESPN, and even before then. But I love to y'all's point. Like I love that he's unapologetically himself. Like even with the No Worries album, it's like like he's just saying like some crazy stuff out his mouth. You know what I'm saying? But especially the last track. But I do like that he's himself, that he's able to go back and forth with like neo soul, R&B, and hip hop, where he can like sing and rap, kind of like Donald Glover, but in his own style and in his own way. And it's interesting because I can't remember which album was nominated for Best Rap Album, but I was like, it's not really a rap album. It's like, it's a little bit of both, but it works so well. And I do think that Anderson Paak is one of those people where it's like you may have heard him like at a lounge party or at a day party or at the club, maybe like, you know, as the club is winding down, but he's like not one of those mainstream artists that, you know, like has like a radio hit that everybody knows. But I think he's on his way. I do think that, you know, eventually, you know, we'll hear him like over the radio airwaves nationwide if people still listen to the radio.
Yeah, I think he's has the crossover appeal and ability and skill like a Bruno Mars, and just does it, but able to do it his way.
Well, listen, we're gonna wrap the show up. I want to thank you guys both for your knowledge. We got a lot of knowledge in this podcast right now, so shout out to you. Chloe, we'll definitely have you back if you would have us back.
Yeah, I would definitely love to come back. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for having me.
We're going to continue to give you guys great content. And we always end the show with a motivational quote. Jay, do you have anything for the people?
Hustle and motivate.
Chloe, do you have anything for the people?
Yeah, to go along those lines, you know, just be of service to others and honor your calling.
I'm going to end it with a lyric from Nipsey Hussle's dedication, since we're kind of wrapping everything up with him and his funeral, but his legacy will always remain. The lyric from dedication featuring Kendrick Lamar. Go listen to it. The line goes, "This is the remedy, the separation. Tupac of my generation, blue pill in the matrix, red rose in the gray pavement." If y'all listening, be that. You can do that wherever you want to be, wherever you're at, whatever your hustle is. Hustle and motivate. Thanks for listening to The Pine. We will talk to you soon.
Peace.